product, or the Folio View software, looks very similar to other standard Windows programs. Underneath, though, it has a true database that it stores all the data in. So when you do searching, you're actually querying a database, and so some of the search parameters can look a little different, but they give you a lot of flexibility. The interface has your standard file menu up here, button bar. On the left side is a table of contents that represents the content of the info base. Your main viewing window over here. Down here on the bottom, you have some tabs, and they basically change the view of the main window. So search takes away the table of contents on the left. Browse takes away the search hits on the bottom. This is personally the view that I usually leave it on, so I'm going to leave it here from now on. I want to show you right off the bat just a couple of basic things with Folio Views. It works similar to a web browser. You can just click on things just like a web browser and it jumps you around. You come back up here and there's a back button. Unfortunately, for mice that work with web browsers, that doesn't quite integrate quite as perfectly, but it does have a forward and back button. Over here is a table of contents. I'm going to bring it down here and for fun show you organization of debt into currency and other papers. So by double clicking any of this, it jumps you right to that part of the book. And as you can see, the green are the hyperlinks, and so if you click on that, it takes you right to chapter 3. If you notice the red over here, that brings up a pop-up, just like you'd kind of expect from a web browser with pop-up links and such. Now to search, over here on the left in the table of contents, I'm going to check one of these boxes. That's going to limit now the searching that I'm going to show you to just this book. There are two types of search interfaces. There's the basic and then advanced. To bring up a basic, you can click the little binoculars down here. Oh, sorry, this is the advanced query, just so you see what it looks like. I'm going to type in a quick word here. And just by typing it in, it shows me I have 61 hits. Generally, for Folio Views, a hit is considered a paragraph. Sometimes it can be multiple paragraphs. It's considered a record because it's in the database. So technically, there are 61 records that match the word tariff. So if I hit OK, now it highlights the word. And if you come down here at the bottom, you can say, take me to the next hit, and it will walk you through all the hits. As I've selected now only this book, it'll walk me through all the hits just in this book. So you can see there that several words are matching. Now by hitting this button, the right arrow, it moves me, each time I click it, it'll move the cursor to the next line that has a highlighted word. So you saw I've hit it 3 times now to work my way through this one paragraph. That's useful in bigger paragraphs. Another way you can do it is, let me find one here where there's multiple hits in a paragraph again, like this one. If you hit the right arrow with the white background and with the little box around it, it'll actually jump you from record to record, so that if there's one paragraph that has 10 lines highlighted, you don't have to hit the next one 10 times. By doing the advanced search, all the hits are presented to you in a linear fashion from the top down. So I'm going to come back up to the top, and I'm going to start clicking this, and if you watch the table of contents on the left there, you'll see how the cursor, the little highlighted rectangle around the section we're in, will just move in a nice straight down linear fashion. Now if you come up and do a basic search, I'm going to come up and do query. This is your basic search, and put in the same word. This will jump me around within the book, similar to kind of how a web search on Google will return results that are ranked by their priority or how well they match. So a paragraph with 10 hits would actually be seen first, and a big paragraph with only one word would be displayed to us last. So now if you watch over here on the left side as I go from paragraph to paragraph, this one happens to have one word out of 5, 6 words, and so its ranking is very high. I click next here, same thing, 5, 6 words, but now it jumps me to chapter 26 right off the bat. If I hit next again, there's 4 hits. It jumps me down to the index, if you see this. The next time is the index again. Index still. Now it jumps me back up to the table of contents. So this one is ranked by a priority, kind of like a Google search. Those are some of the basics to searching. Just to, I'm going to do an advanced search again. Just hit F2. And I wanted to show you one more thing in here. You can come in and put tariff, and then you can put and money. Or you can also, the and is optional. It's automatically an and, so tariff, money. And you can see it's changing the list of available words that match at that point. So sometimes, like you see here with the .10, that would be like a footnote number. So I'm going to put a star on the end, and that should select more of those other words with the footnote numbers on the end. Another thing you can do here is you can put money, tariff or money, and you can see now we're up to 713 hits. So it's really handy to be able to come in here and use in the advanced query the number of hits you get back. You can also use parentheses to say, I want tariff and money, not dollars. Now we're down to 14 hits. So you can see that you can scope your search with ands, nots, with parentheses, kind of almost in a logical fashion in order to drill down to exactly what you want to see. So I'm going to hit OK, and now we see there's money, 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 and there's the word tariff at the bottom of the paragraph. I'm going to do a next partition, and you see a nice paragraph here that has the tariff and money highlighted for you. One really nice thing with Folio is since it's a database, you can come up to View and say, I only want to see the records with hits. And what this does is it hides from view basically all the other paragraphs from you. So now if you just actually come over and do your arrow down here, or your the slider bar down, it'll only show you those 14 paragraphs. So then if you come down and say, oh, I like this paragraph right here, you put your cursor in it, it moves your table of contents to highlight the chapter we're in. And then if you take off, if you take off the records with hits, go back to view record, it leaves your cursor in that paragraph, but now you can go back and read the paragraphs around it. So those are some of the advantages to being in a true database compared to using something like PDF or just a Google search. The next thing I'd like to show you, let me go back to the top here of Carol's book, is a couple of tricks with folio views. One is that with the mouse wheel, if you hold down the control key and roll the mouse wheel, you can change the zoom. Some people with the new laptops have very high resolutions, and so if you scroll up with your mouse wheel while holding the control key down, it can make the text bigger so it's easier to read. You can also do the same thing by going up to View, Zoom, and you can change it to what you want there. One little handy feature. Another thing to show you here is what you can do to the info base itself. So not only is it like a web page that you can view, you can also add annotations. So right here, you can come up and I want to say I want to add a note. You come down here in the note and you can type in, I read this book August 2008. So once I close it, I'll hit save. Now I have a note over there. Just by clicking on it, it brings it up. When you do advanced queries, you can actually search for text within notes. So if you know that you made a note on something on tariffs and you don't want to search the whole database, you can say just search my notes. So it's very handy in being able to add annotations to the material. Another feature you can do is, let me go down here, and instead of hitting the little arrow here, the shortcut key is F4, so I'm going to hit F4. And you come down here, and you really like this paragraph, for example, and you want to highlight it as being money. You can highlight a sentence here, and then they have highlighters. So I'm going to put a highlighter in. I need to create a highlighter. I'm going to say new. I'm going to put in money. You can change the color if you'd like. So I'm going to change this to be blue. Hit OK, and now apply. And now that text shows up as blue. Now, the nice thing about doing that is one, you can come back and see that this is something that you like. You can put many topics in, as many as you want. But now, if you do the advanced query, you can come in, and by putting an open bracket down here, you can come in and put, I want to do a highlighter. Now you can see money is an available option. And now we can put in the word money. And now we can search also within just the text that's highlighted and nothing else. You can see over here how we have one hit on our table of contents. So that's another way you can customize the database yourself, is by highlighting important things and giving them a classification. One more thing that you can do is you can add bookmarks. So you can come in here and say, reading. This is what I do quite a bit, is you can set a bookmark. Then after you close the database and bring it back up, you can just come up to your bookmark and hit go to, and it jumps you right to where you were, so you can keep reading where you left off. So that right there is very useful. Now, in order to do some of these modifications, like these highlighters and destinations, or the bookmarks and the notes, you have to be able to write the database. So if you're loading this from the DVD, Folio has a feature that is called a shadow file. What that does is it can keep the NFO file, the database, on a DVD, and at the same time you can say, I want to have a little file on my hard drive that lets me store just the changes I make that'll be overlaid on top of the database. So I'm going to come up here and go File, and I'm going to go New, and you come down here at the bottom, and if you do a shadow file, we'll just put shadow in here. By default, it defaults back to the directory you installed the Folio Views program. You can change that to My Documents if you want. If you install the info base on the local hard drive, then you can change the directory over to there and save it so it stays in My Documents. I'm going to come over and hit New. And now up here in the title bar, you can see where it says Shadow. So instead of opening the NFO file off of the CD-ROM or off the hard drive, if you open that shadow file, then you can make your changes that will be overlaid on top of the info base. This is also useful if you have, say, two members of the family that will want to add these annotations. Both of you can have separate shadow files. Make your own highlighters and bookmarks and not be modified by the other person. So it's really handy. Not very much software goes to this kind of customization to let you control this. How Folio Views handles the searching. For example, when you go to Google and do a web search, you put in a few words. I'll do here an advanced query, put in gold standard, for example. And it shows us that there are 1,740 records with hits. Now on Google, it would show you that you're displaying one of 1,700 web pages. Well, for Folio, a record generally is a paragraph. It can actually be several paragraphs depending on how the database designer laid out some of the things. But for all intents and purposes, a record is a paragraph. So this would show us that 1,740 paragraphs or records matched gold, and in this case, just putting two words as gold and standard. So there we go. There's the first paragraphs that match what we're looking for. Now F4 moves the cursor to the various hits. So a lot of times when you just see it start moving from one hit to the next, I'll be hitting F4 takes you to the next one, Shift F4 takes you back. That's the basic movement of this within the search hits that I use. It's real fast. So there's a basic search, gold standard. Now these are the search terms. The search terms are applied across all records that you select. Now, Folio lets you have some fun things to select what records you want. For example, by hitting the left bracket down here, or just typing one in, now it gives us a whole new selection criteria. In this database, I have groups set up per author. So if I type in here, there are 14,245 records that were written or authored by Lou Rockwell. So if I hit OK, come back up here to the table of contents, you can see that in the free market, he has all those articles. On average, like that 27 records would be one article from that edition of the free market. Or you come down to the daily articles, and you can see per year how many records there are that match. And roughly like these 30, 18, these would be one article, or like the 90 might be several articles. So there's 24, 66, so it'd be 2 articles for that month. So it's really handy to kind of see how big, how broad of a search scope you're going to get just by looking at that. So I'm going to bring this back up. Now I'm going to type in gold. That limits us down to 287 records. Now standard. Now we're down to 173. Now we're still searching though, just within the records from Lew Rockwell. Now if you come back over here, it shows you what the breakout is for each section of the info base. So for example, right here, November of 99, there's the hit. Now, you can also do some fun things here. For example, with Folio, you can do synonym matching. So if I want gold, I can put a $sign after it, and now it's going to give me coin, metal, beaten, gold wealth, precious. So it gives you a lot more flexibility on the words you want to return back. You can also do a %, and that does, let's change the word here, and do drive, and do a %, and now you'll see that with the % on it, it'll turn back word roots, so even like drives and drove will get returned back. So it handles your tenses, or if you do like woman, it'll return back women as well. You can do drive star, and that will get back everything that starts with those 5 letters. You can also do question marks, so you can do like, now you get woman and women. So you get both forms there with a question mark, making that one character a wild card. Or you could even do something like that with a double. Now, as far as applying your search to several records at once, I'm going to come in and do gold, standard. Now this time with double quotes around it, it has to be a phrase. That's why you see fewer hits. But now I'm going to put /10. And what that's going to do is it's going to say, I want to see those 2 words within 10 records of each other. So now you'll see gold standard together, but now you'll see there's gold and standard. And as we come down, you'll even see somewhere one record has gold, and a few records later we'll have the word standard. And you can see where gold and standard are now separated. Anyway, you get the idea. That way you can actually search for, if you know that maybe the phrase you're looking for is not next to each other, but might be within a couple of paragraphs of each other. Let's see if I can do a... Now another one that you can do is you can do a pound here. You can see we get much different hits. I'm going to turn off the view all records. Try to show this a little bit differently here. So you see here there is Macy's and gold, but they're several records away from each other. So it gives you much more flexibility. Now also, there are a lot of pop-ups, or the notes that you add yourself, or even the highlighters that you add. Now if I open up the advanced search dialog again, you can come in here and search. I'm going to only search in notes this time. Let's do pop-ups first. I'm only going to search in pop-ups, and I want to search for the word bills. Now there are 5 pop-ups with that phrase in it. So now it'll jump you right to the pop-up with the word highlighted for you. So if you add your own note, just making something up here, closing it, Now I can also search in Note for the word bills. And you can see the one new one that I just did brings up that record with that note highlighted. Now, you can also do highlighters. I'm going to just quickly create a new highlighter here. I'm just going to call it fun. Now I can come in and do a search and do a highlighter. And I only have one highlighter right now, so I'm going to put fun in. And now I can type in any word I want, like the word first. And now within just the text that I have marked as that highlighter, it highlights the words that I searched. So that lets you narrow your searching down. So you could highlight a couple of paragraphs on whatever topic you want. And now over time, as you highlight more and more paragraphs, you can go back and search and say, oh, this was within economics. I wanted to find, somebody talked about praxeology. And so you can narrow your search down just to within that highlighter. So this highlights just some of the things that you can do with folio views. As you get even more advanced in here, you can do some things with level. You can do some things with headings that I haven't covered. The footnotes that are within this document, I use fields. I'm not going to cover that right now, but just to let you know that there are even more options in your searching. So folio views is very powerful in what it allows you to do, much more than what you can even do within a Google hit or with a Google search. And that's why we use it, because we think that it is one of the best programs out there for searching such content, especially when there's hundreds of megabytes or gigabytes of information. Folio Views lets you search it, filter it, and access it very easily and quickly. Thank you.